Are you an investor or a landlord? Well, newsflash, you may need to get a new policy to make sure you're covered in the right way for that home. A home insurance policy for a tenant-occupied home can really give you two different ways to cover the home and also give you different sets of coverages built into that policy. The dwelling is always going to be covered for the home's rebuild value. That's going to cover you to rebuild that home from the ground up if you needed it. One of the biggest differences on a tenant-occupied home versus a home that you're living in is the coverage for your personal belongings. And in most cases, if you have a home that has no belongings in it, that number is usually less than what it is if you have your stuff in it. Personal belongings inside of a tenant-occupied home can usually be pretty minimal, so I do recommend add up the value of those things to equate for what you need for coverage. One of the main differences in a tenant-occupied home versus a home that you're living in is the way that loss of use is covered, and the term that is used on a tenant-occupied policy is essentially loss of rents. And what does that mean? Loss of rents are essentially going to cover you and provide coverage for in the event of a covered claim where your tenant cannot pay the rent. Last but not least, liability is usually covered on a tenant-occupied home. The difference is that liability really only covers you for the premises. So it's premises liability. It covers you for just the property itself, for anything that could happen on that property. Please feel free to reach out to us anytime. Know your options, understand your options, get your coverage on point.